I think might be the greatest 3 minutes of preaching that has ever occurred that I've seen.
Wow.
From a dude named Alistair Begg. You're going to hear it in a second. He's Scottish. Makes him sound real awesome. Sounds like Braveheart's preaching the gospel to you. It's real great.
So that to go to the old Fort Lauderdale question, if you were to die tonight and you were getting entry into heaven, what would you say? If you answer that, and if I answer it in the first person, we've immediately gone wrong. Because I believed, because I have faith, because I am this, because I am continuing. Loved ones, the only proper answer is in the third person, because he. Think about the thief on the cross. And what an immense, I can't wait to find that fellow one day to ask him, how did that shake out for you? Because you were cussing the guy out with your friend. You'd never been in a Bible study. You never got baptized. You didn't know a thing about church membership. And yet you made it. You made it. How did you make it? That's what the angel must have said. You know, like, what are you doing here? Well, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Well, because I don't know. Well, you know, excuse me, let me get my supervisor. They go get the supervisor ranger. So, wait, just a few questions for you. First of all, are you clear on the doctrine of justification by faith? Guys said, I never heard of it in my life. And what about, let's just go to the doctrine of Scripture immediately. This guy's just staring. And eventually in frustration, he says, on what basis are you here? And he said, the man on the middle cross said, I can come.
The man on the middle cross said, I could come.
Wow.
For it is by grace you have been saved, through faith. This is not of your undoing. It is the gift of God.
Wow. What an amazing 3 minutes it is. Sheila, tell me your thoughts.
I'm so excited that we could share this today. It has so blown me away. And I'm Scottish. Half of my family is Scotch-Irish, but Scotch-Irish English. Mom said, stop at the border of Scotland, dear. So I guess we're Scottish. And then he married English. And so that's that side of the family. On the other side of the Norwegian side of the family. And the most amazing thing is, it is that simple. And even you guys are probably shocked about this, but even I get questioned. Oh, I think she only knows Jesus and doesn't know Jesus because she only talks about the Father. And taking on the Scottish almost. I'm sorry about that. But anyway, that's what people are saying to me all the time. Why is she saying Father? Well, Christ taught me to pray to the Father. Our Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven. He said, I only say what I hear the Father say. I only do what I see the Father do. And he even said, because only he can say, because they are one, that if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. If you've seen the Father, you've seen me. Because in Hebrew, Echad, E-C-H-A-D, but it's pronounced Ehad in Hebrew, it's absolute unity. They've always wanted division. And so here we are heading into this rededication coming up the next weekend, 16, 17, and 18 in D.C., and the focus has been on the 1607 landing. And I'm like, why the 1607 landing? Well, Sheila Holm was wrong because the Pilgrims didn't get here till 1620. There was a 1607 landing. That was first. That's the focus. No, we don't rededicate to 3 ships that King James sent to America. Those 3 ships were fully funded by King James. What was he doing at the same time? He was arresting the Pilgrims. He was stealing from them. They lost their assets. They were jailed multiple times. Then when they paid the captains to take the trip, they paid 3 captains that never took them. The captains turned them back over to who? The king. Then what happened? They got jailed again, lost all their money, had to raise money again for the transport. That's why they went to Leiden, which I think is over in the Netherlands. But they had to go over there. But what else happened? And today I just sent a letter to the president. And I sent a copy. You guys who have been watching me for a while, you know all about this primer. This New England primer is so profound. And what you're going to find in it, and I know some of you were frustrated because it's the Old English, but David Barton updated it. And guys, this is out of the 18th printing in 2020. I have some from the 16th printing in 2020 and the 18th printing in 2020. And now I can't find them anymore. So we're going to see if David Barton will print some more. But if you see this picture in the book, that picture is of the pastor of the Pilgrims being burned at the stake in front of his wife and the 9 children. And one is still at her breast because it's a brand new baby. So they had 9 children. And because he was a pastor, and because Tyndale, who transcribed the Bible into English, smuggled them back into England and they were teaching their children the Lord's Prayer, the fathers were being boiled in oil. You had 2 choices: boil in oil, burn at the stake. That's in the 1500s. And then they transcribed the calendar over to Pope Gregory they were following the Hebrew, and the Pope Gregory calendar is a mess. That's in the beginning of my new book, An Eternal Plan. But this kind of thing was going on all the time. Why? Did you know that in England and in early America, women had no option for land? Women had no option for assets. So you kill the husband, as they did in the Civil War, more than 700,000 of them, because they killed the believers. That was the focus. You do that, and these women have no option. So what happens is the rulers and the leadership that caused the fathers to be killed, guess what? That family becomes the property of that man. Does that sound like early sex trafficking, human trafficking that we're still dealing with to this day? So the 1607 landing is we already covered this in a previous interview, but the reason why this is such an emotional time is never has a president called our entire nation to prayer like this. This is what happened in Nineveh, remember?
That's right.
And we went over that when we did the maps on the 3 eclipses, because when Jonah went, the God still gave the king 40 days. You clean it up, repent, and I'll relent. And so the king didn't want to be overthrown, and that's what was going to happen. So the king even participated in fasting and prayer and called all the people to prayer. And because they all repented, God relented. That was the message on the 3 eclipses in 2017, 23, and 24. We've already covered that. So anyway, anyone that didn't hear that, that's what the message is. And the 24 went through 6 towns of Nineveh, which is the number 6 is, I know it's beast, it's number of man, it's number for tent peg. And that's the difference with Hebrew. There's multiple definitions. But with the Father, he said, Sheila, it's also Ruach HaKodesh. And Ruach has a C in it. Ruach HaKodesh is actually the tight connection, personal relationship with the Father. Remember how I've been saying, get tight with the Father, get tight with the Father?
Over and over again, yep.
And so that's what it is. And so he gave us a warning, because in those 3 eclipses, guys, in 7 years, that would have taken 75 to 90 if it was a normal cycle. It takes 25 to 30 years for a full eclipse to come to America. The next one's in another 23, 24 years, and it's going to dip into Montana and North Dakota. And so it's not something that happens that frequently, but he did all of this. And what were the years? 2017 to 24. Do you not find that miraculous? And then you fast forward, and here was Passover Day on the Cross was April 1, and they call us April Fools because our scriptural year begins at that time. And because that happens, and here's the other humor of it, the Hebrew calendar is a different schedule. And when they made the Gregorian out of the Roman calendar, they put January, Janus, and February, gods and goddesses, in front of March, April, May. So those 2 made it a 12-month calendar. And instead of putting it at the end and keeping it in order, they threw everything into confusion, because September, October, November, December are 7, 8, 9, 10. So they put Janus and February at the beginning, which ended up with Passover being in April, and purposely called it April Fools, because that's when we start our scriptural year, is when Passover happens. That's also the time on the cross, Nisan 14, resurrection Nisan 17. And this year, miraculously, Nisan 14 was on April 1, and Nisan 17 was on Sabbath on April 4. Now let's fast forward to what's going to happen with this rededication. This rededication is happening 5 days before what? Sivan 6. What is Sivan 6? That's when the 10 Commandments were given to Moses. Sivan 6 is when the people were in the upper room and the Holy Spirit arrived. Remember? So God does everything in perfection. And on 5 days after May 17, what's going to happen in America? The Native American Indians are going to gather together in Kansas City on their annual gathering. And on the 22nd, the day before the public event, this is the public event, the day before, they're going to do the major honoring of the Native American leadership. And so why are they doing it on May 22? May 22 this year is Sivan 6.
Wow.
Do you see how, I mean, all of this is lining up. It's just, it's all lining up.
It's like an almost invisible jigsaw puzzle, but when you
Yes.
understand the underpinning, the meaning of the various dates in true history, you begin to see the patterns, don't you?
Mm-hmm. And so I just sent the letter to the president. That's why a little bit rushed today, but I sent the letter to the president and the personal invitation. May 23 is a public gathering, and that's the flyer that you just had up. And anyone can attend this, guys. It's profound. And they're going to have the black leggings there. And for the first time in the history of the gatherings, they're going to have the chief from the tribe at the Arctic Circle.
Oh, wow.
They're just, I mean, there's just so much. You see what I mean? There's just so much. Now, what are the chances? They honor one person each year. And last year they had this guy who gave a really great prayer. And so they decided to honor him. He happens to be a Cherokee chief in Oklahoma. This is the first time I've ever been invited. You see the timing on all of this? And it's the weekend after DC weekend. And so DC is next weekend, not this coming weekend, but next weekend. And then the very next weekend, so I'm going to go straight from DC to Kansas City to be at the National Honoring Day for the Native Americans. So when I asked, I said, well, who's being honored this year? And they said, oh, Cherokee chief from Oklahoma. And I said, oh, would his name happen to be Clifton Pettit? And the team went crazy. They're like, you know Clifton Pettit? I said, well, it was a decade ago. And when he received a gift in the mail of my first book, For the Sake of America, in early 2017, it came out in 2016, he put his wife and sister-in-law in the car, and they alternated driving. And within 24 hours, they were in Georgia. Now, this is a powerful man, God, who for the last 20 years got invitations to go to Georgia, and he ignored all of them. But he got the book and thought, who's this woman who thinks she knows so much about the Cherokee Indians? And it was so adorable because it was all the father. And about every 10 or 15 minutes while we were meeting, he was talking, and he goes, got to call the mapper. Got to call the mapper. Didn't know about this. Got to call the mapper. And so, because when God sent me to the mountaintop, a lot of you already know this. He sent me to Cornelia, has 7 mountaintops. And so that's where I thought I was going, and I was going to be taking care of a dog, and it was all set up. I get there and I'm at a place in Baldwin, and Baldwin is closed, but it's not Cornelia where the 7 highest mountaintops were. So I thought this is all wrong. Besides, they had cats, and I'm allergic to cats, and they have a new little kitten. And they said, but don't worry, the cats always run upstairs and they're with the family at night, and they're never going to be downstairs. Every night, all 4 cats on top of me, including the kitten. So that's what my experience was. So I thought it was wrong until months later when I was working on the book, and the banker that I met, you guys who donate through the mail, you write to him, Cliff Brown up at Clarksville, Georgia. And when he came into a prayer meeting, he came in and it's a 1 hour. You guys should try this. Gather for an hour. When you enter, nobody says anything. When you enter, it's just Holy Spirit guided. So when somebody's prompted, they'll say what the Holy Spirit's saying, the next person. And it's called Hub up there because it's Habersham United Believers. Okay. And it just keeps expanding. And it's their lunch hour. So they drive from wherever they are in the county to get to that 1 hour. So I was speaking, I guess, when this banker came in. And when he came in, he heard me praying. And so then afterwards he went, who are you and where are you from? And so we became close. And he's the one that sent me the email from a woman in Israel that said, Father is saying there's someone that is interested in your area and writing books about your area. And it was months after I'd left there. And while I was writing this book, probably a year and a half, because the first book was out. I was there in 2015. 2016 was the first book, and it was right before the third book. The third book. And the message was that what she needs to know is there's a stone pile and in a town called Baldwin, Georgia, and Father wants her to know about it for her book. I thought, why do I have to know about a stone pile? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so she put this whole thing, and I'm scrolling on my phone to find out. And what it said were some words about the Cherokee, and that the Cherokee used to be abundant on the land, but they are no longer there. So the understanding or the meaning of a stone pile that they left with us is forever lost. And so I said, God, how am I gonna be phrasing this and keeping this? And he said, Sheila, it's on the Baldwin website. I'm like, what? So guys, just for fun, look at the Baldwin, Georgia website. And it has that whole phrase right on the home page of the website, that the Cherokee used to be abundant on this land, but when they departed, they left a pile of stones, and guys, it's the stones of remembrance, like left at the Jordan, so that people would remember, here is what happened here, and here is what it was a way to remember, because they couldn't write everything down. Mm-hmm. This is since ancient times. So it proved that they're the tribes. And then that's what headed me into a deeper search on the Cherokee, even in the second and the third books, because the difference is they were, in fact, in Georgia, there's a line where the Cherokee and Creek line, do you know where it runs through? The very heart, the very middle of Baldwin, Georgia. And so they left it right at the nation line between the Cherokee and the Creek. The Creek had the most Native Americans north of Mexico. And that's all been documented. And so when this Cherokee chief came and I was discussing all of these things, I've not written to him about any of these things since. And what are the chances that God 10 years later would have me invited to this event? And the man they're going to honor this year is because of the powerful prayer last year. And when he came to Georgia, I had him do a prayer, and I said, I'm going to make a request, and I'm going to add a favor to it. And he said, well, what's your request? And I said, would you please pray in your native language? He said, okay. So he did. Powerful to hear, because see, they're still in the ancient Hebrew. They've etched the 10 Commandments in the ancient Hebrew. All of this is in my books, pictures of those stones so you can see it. And after he prayed, he said, so now what's your favor? And I said, could you please reveal to them by saying that same prayer with English words in a prayer so they can hear the difference? Guys, it's as though you cut a watermelon in half, you put half of it in a 5-gallon bucket, you pour water on it for a few days, maybe 2-3 days, and then you pull it out and you cut a piece off, and that's how soggy and soft the prayer is compared to a Cherokee prayer in action with the words. The words make a difference. And Hebrew has multiple meanings to the words. So the only way you really know what the Hebrew people are speaking is to know with the Father, he reveals to you, just like when I said, 6 cities of Nineveh. Oh, that means beast. That means number of man. And then that little Hebrew video that you guys can see on the interviews page down at the bottom in the podcast section, 6 was tent peg. That's what they put him on the cross with. We're tent peg. So I said, I don't know. Which one do you want me to use? And he said, Sheila, it's also Ruach HaKodesh. You see what I mean? Without the Father, we can't know the full meaning of anything. And fifth dimension is what Hebrew is. And to communicate in that, it's just like when the president said, Kofefe. Kofefe is an ancient term. But God also made it off of the chemical chart. It now matches exactly what the guys needed in the military to put on top of the 5G cell towers to protect us.
Yeah. So remind people, please, what Kofefe translates into.
We will rise and you will fall. And Enoch included it, saying that it was Noah's sons that were screaming out to the fallen angels because they were so intimidating and so harassing that they just would scream out, Kofefe, and walk away. So everybody knew both sides, because I've talked about the rabbis. The rabbis are both on the Babylonian side and the Hebrew side. A rabbi just means a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So when people say I'm being taught by a rabbi, can you believe a rabbi is taking me under their wing? I said, what kind of rabbi is he?
Yeah. What does he
And
follow?
it just shocks them. Yeah. So
I want to underscore one thing you started with, just to
Mhm.
make sure people remember, if they haven't seen our session where you talked about the difference between 1607 and the Pilgrims dedication. Take us
Mhm.
through that just a little deeper, so people are crystal clear on when 1607 occurred. They dedicated not really to God in the way that it should be. They really were dedicating, it seemed, to England in many ways. And then the Pilgrims came, and compare those two, if you would, please, for a minute.
Well, they did it as a prayer. They're calling it now that it was a declaration
Mm.
and a covenant with God. But the wording of it was to evangelize with England, this nation, and all nations around the world. So that's what they were going to do. And that was what King James sent them out there for. Because at the same time, I mentioned King James was already jailing and stealing from and
Right.
having captains turn in the names of the pilgrims since the 1500s. And he paid for that sailing of the 3 ships for the trip. So it's a completely different thing. When the pilgrims came, they came to get away. I don't know if we can bring up the picture of Liberty Man on the Faith Monument.
I can.
Liberty Man is in the upper right. He's, or I don't know if we can take the 2 pictures on the right. Let's take the bottom right first.
I can't do that at the moment, but I can superimpose that as we go through production.
Okay.
I do have a separate picture, I think. Hang on just a moment. Let me see if I can.
Because he's cut him off all the time.
Yep. Hang on just a moment.
Well, I can talk about the lion, because that lion, so these are okay. That lion is actually the head of the Lion of England. And it's a stand-up lion on all of their depictions. Did you know that the stand-up lion is also for the Rothschilds? Did you know it's also for the Rockefellers? And that's why there's 2 stand-up lions on either side of the menorah when it became the State of Israel, registered as a corporation in London back in, I think, 1948. But the Lion of England is what he's sitting on. He has skinned it. And after skinning the lion, he's sitting on the head of it. And I think you can see it has a crown on it. And then down in the side panel, he's standing, putting his foot on the neck of a man in plain clothes who's pretending to be a ruler, who has a crown on his head. So it doesn't bother him as to what's happening, because the tyranny is where his right foot is, up above on the where you see his foot. He's put his right foot on like a history book of tyranny. They've done all of this to us, and now we're here to live in liberty and freedom on this land. And now if we can come back to the other picture, the paw of the limp-skinned lion is on his right shoulder, and in his left hand are shackles to shackle anyone that comes in. And across his right arm is a telescope to look out onto the horizon and make sure that no tyranny comes upon our soil. Now, do you see that as a distinctive difference between England evangelizing with us or versus us getting away from England? Because England had just burned their pastor at the stake for being a pastor and willing to teach the people the Bible.
It's amazing how much they showed us, and yet many people didn't see this until, very frankly, and many people didn't see it until you started pointing it out and showing the meaning behind these statues. Now, this is the Plymouth Pilgrim statue in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Is that right?
Correct. It's in a little cul-de-sac. A lot of people don't know the meaning of it, but they don't know the Civil War soldier meaning either. The funny part about this is they waited until 1989, 100 years after Washington was inaugurated as president, sworn in as president, by then they had put a significant number of the Pilgrims, the Native Americans, the Moors, who helped put all of our documents together, with the Cherokee that took that Supreme Court case all the way to the Supreme Court for the Cherokee to stop forcing them out of their homes and off of their land. And they won the case, but then British rule took over. This is the early 1800s, before 1820. 1804, they started forcing them out of their homes and off of their land. And 1804 is when they removed the Apocrypha out of the Bible. And that was done by the British and Foreign Bible Society. There's no
really?
names. Yeah. 1804 and 1804. And by 1835, they removed more books. There is no Book of Enoch. There is no Apocrypha. And it was in the 1611 King James Bible, but it was removed. And because they didn't want people to know how people got here, they didn't want anyone, they wanted to decide how everything happened from that point forward. So they took control of absolutely everything. And Britain has been in control. Everybody thinks we've been free. We have never been free. We've been registered as a corporation in the City of London since 1871 when it was finalized, but we've always been under England. We were never free. We were still fighting. There was a big battle in our war in 1781, and everyone thinks we won it. We won the battle at Yorktown, but we never won the war. That's why we were still fighting them when? 1812. Remember that famous song, Overture, 1812 Overture? I played it in band, orchestra, whatever, in high school. And we thought it was a phenomenal song, and it had so much power to it. You know, we didn't know what 1812 meant, but the Cherokee, or the Creek, the young Creek, ended up fighting till 1815, 1816, because they fought with us to save the land, and they were still being pushed out of their homes and off of their land. And so there's just a lot that has happened that we haven't really fully understood or corrected.
I found something you wrote is directly in line with what you just mentioned. And this is, we won't go through all of this. So you can highlight parts of it, but you mentioned that people have been requesting you to explain.
Let's go ahead and read it. Let's go ahead and would you read it?
I'd be delighted to. Thank you. So let's make sure I can. Daily, I am receiving requests to tell people if the Republic is being or has been restored, or if it is re-inhabited in certain states or in some other form in various counties or states are being restructured. Per our U.S. Constitution, we were established as a republic, if we can keep it, per Benjamin Franklin's response to Mrs. Powell when Franklin departed the Constitutional Convention. No person or group of people in one room at one time can make the decision and vote for officers to run their town, city, county, or state and declare that they have restored or re-inhabited the republic. 2/3 are required. Reason: a meeting of a few in a room is not an option to declare a separate government structure. To the return to the republic, the corporation has to be dealt with, and per many sources, it is being dealt with. So then, we the people can legally structure the republic for America properly once again to be the republic for which our flag stands. When the structure of the Republic for America is ready, all states should consider resolving the issue of ratifying their state constitution. Many representing the states did not know that there were state constitutions, and when experts reviewed the status, they found states with a constitution or a few constitutions not ratified. A republic is government structure of, by, and for the people. Are you ready?
That's what it's going to take to make it happen. And it can happen until it's ready to happen. And I didn't put the terms in, but if you check, I think it's U.S. Title 18, it describes per our Constitution that you're either trying to do an insurrection against the current government that's already in place, or you are being seditious. And if you knowingly are doing this, it's treason.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden I'm being flooded with all of these requests. Sheila, what do you think about re-inhabiting the Republic? And what do you think about, I'm not having any thoughts on it. I heard all of this a decade, 2 decades ago, almost 2 decades. Yeah, 2 decades ago. Got really involved in it because they said they heard it from their senator, and they have to get as many of us willing to work hard to reestablish our republic in order to make it happen. But when the person was charged with a crime and in trial, I even got an attorney to help him, and I helped raise the funds to get the attorney to help him, because where was his senator? His senator never showed up. Come to find out, he was sent to prison. And when I checked with people after that, they said, Sheila, this whole thing, you cannot try and set up another government in America when another government's in place. So what happened is, with what happened with England, they overlaid a corporation on top of our nation. It's not all. Remember, I think we've already talked. We did about early taking us over before we were self-governing. We covered that point in my new book, In Eternal Plan. And in that, there's a Charles Joseph Bonaparte, great nephew of Napoleon Bonaparte, who became a self-declared emperor of France. And we thought we were fighting France and England. We weren't. The King of England, which happened to be at the time of the war, was George III. And that George III is what George is named after, which is why I can never get out of Georgia yet. And so, because everything that happens starts in Georgia. The whole Russian hoax against the president was created out of thin air. There's no evidence of anything. It was all made up out of thin air at Georgia Tech in Atlanta, Georgia. And if you want to go look it up, it's in the Sussman pleadings from Durham. It says lead tech, supervising tech, bank 1, bank 2, bank 3 over in Russia. None of it's real. It's all made up. The whole thing destroying him, the impeachments, the cases, everything else is due to that stupid Russia hoax, is the kingpin root of that entire debacle. And all of that happened to the president is all wrong. It's all based on complete lies, but that's how they operate. That's right. So, I'm sorry.
That's right. I remember asking one of our friends, gosh, it's several years ago. I said, why is it that I feel like Georgia is something of an epicenter to all these problems? And the answer that I got is, well, it's one of the very key epicenters of all of this, probably one of 3. And it's very key. So to your point, there you go. We're tied to George III, and there's lots of reasons why these things have a tendency to nest right here.
Well, and is there a coincidence in this? The Monroe Doctrine was something that he was not president then, that he represented the Monroe Doctrine to Congress so that they could look at the fact that this infiltration is bringing tyranny onto our shores, and we've got to do everything we can to stop it, and nobody wanted to touch it. And so that was in 1820. Also in 1820, King George III was given a little extra dose of arsenic because that was the medicine at the time. In 26, President Jefferson, President Adams got a little extra dose of arsenic, and they were taken out on our 50th anniversary, and President Monroe, who brought in the Monroe Doctrine, was taken out on our 55th in 1831. All of this is happening, and we aren't even up to 50 years of being a nation yet. Do you see what I mean? So to do any dedication that's connected to England, I'm just going to repeat it again. We cannot, look at what the president has done to set this whole thing up. So for people to force their opinion that just because 1607 happened before 1620, that's not looking at fact. That's not looking at how America was established on the truth with the Lord. All of our laws, the whole Constitution, our constitutions in the state, our oaths that we take in court, and our oaths that we take for positions in the government. The reason why they're refusing to take their oaths, they're circling the thing, so help me God, saying no with exclamation points, refuse for cause. And when I just had that big family court thing going on in Nebraska, and when they asked my brother to raise his hand and said, did you promise not to commit perjury? He goes, yes. That was it. It's no, the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help me God. It's not even there anymore. And nobody putting the hand on the Bible. And the podium and Bible that was used for George Washington to say his oath at the Federal Hall in New York. Did you know? I've got it in the new book. I've had it in some of my books in the book series. Did you know they've removed the podium and Bible? So here's George Washington with his hand outstretched. It's a beautiful brass statue, but he's got his hand outstretched on the Bible to take his oath, and there's no Bible. So what's really critical is the Pilgrims did all of this, and they were already here in less than the first 100 years of having a Bible available in English to know what the truth is. And they took that truth and made that faith monument in 4 pillars. And if we would follow those 4 pillars and raise up the children in that way. And that's why the primer, they raise their children with just that little primer, and every example, every letter of the alphabet refers to a scripture. All the numbers refer to scripture. Everything is to train up a child in the way they should go. This small little primer, it's not that big, guys. And the wording is a little bit small, but everything in here is to raise them up to know the truth. Because if you know that, Father's going to have you doing everything you need to do. And so that's how far we've come away from the truth. So that's why the rededication is so critical. And I think you have some things about the rededication, don't you?
I do.
Mm-hmm.
So here is the National Day of Jubilee prayer, praise, and thanksgiving on May 17th. America will be rededicated to one nation under God. And it sounds as if it's going to be just an amazing, and I guess it goes certainly through that day, but I'm sure there's going to be lead ups the day before. And, the number of organizations that are planning on being there now continues to grow by the day. And we're only, how many days away are we? 8 days away right now. Is that right?
It's on the 17th, so it's 10 days from today.
10 days. So it will be amazing.
And it's in the afternoon. I have a timing of 2 to 4 in the afternoon for the rededication, but maybe that's just one because I'm going to be they're the America First team that started on January 7th because of January 6th to clean all this up, get the executive orders together for the requests of the people across the country and to get the laws corrected. So it's not lobbyists making laws above Congress and telling Congress what to put through that they don't even know what they're signing or reading or passing. So that's where I'm going to be. So when people say, I want to do this with you, I want to do this with you, I'm only there for that. I'm only there to make sure that what we're dedicating ourselves to and our nation to is to the truth from the Father, because that's what the 45 points did. Discredit the Bible, discredit God, discredit the Bible, discredit the family, discredit marriage, discredit the children having any influence from their parents, by the parents being all their negative influences that they have to get away from. It goes on and on and on. That's where we are. And the Pilgrims knew this because everything we're experiencing now, they were already experiencing in Europe. They paid that severe price to get here, separate themselves from England, set all of this up, and then they set it up for 500 years. Why? Because in 500 years, enough generations would know the truth that they wouldn't want to go back. Because once you start operating with the Father, and he starts prompting you to be concerned about this, watch this, know what this person's doing over here. And he just keeps your life in good order. And if you will surrender unto him and follow what he wants you to do. And it's just a whole different thing. And that's why you don't need much sleep either. There's always nights that I have more sleep, but if I get 3.5, I lay my head on the pillow. Otherwise I stay up with him with the scripture because he never sleeps. And our sleep and working with him is not as necessary as sleep of carrying everything as you rest, because our day starts at sundown. That's why Christ was the morning star bringing light to the world. And that's why we're so different from the world. That's why they give us all this hassle and intimidation and targeting and vaccines and pills and all this stuff. We don't need any of it. We don't need any of it. I've not had a medical exam since 1989. I don't plan on having another one. I don't ever plan on going to the hospital. And they said, what if you break a bone? If I break a bone, take me to a one-day surgery center. I'll go and get the bone set and get out. I'm not going to stay in a hospital. I know what this is all about because I had a medical legal corporation that God got me out of. It was a horrific hostile takeover that some of you already know about, but he got me out of that. I was going to be not only with ABC, I was going to be their brand new first ever Hollywood entertainment reporter on everything. And that was going to also include all of the things happening that I set up with Combo Connection, because Combo, for the combined arts, I helped do audience development for them. I connected business people to the arts. So we would come to the final dress rehearsal and we would pay the price, and that would help fund the Old Globe. And the Samahan Samahan dancers, I can't remember, it's from the Philippines. Samahan, I can't remember. But anyway, I did a potluck, and the invitation had a big cooking pot with a bow tie on it as a tuxedo. And we did a real fancy dress up potluck, and they came and performed for us. And everybody had to bring a dish with a recipe. I turned it into a cookbook, and then they were able to sell the cookbook and make money. There's things we can do to bless and help each other that we're not even thinking of or doing, because with Father, it's to walk in faith, to function in the storehouse, which means start a blessing cycle. And the more you bless, the more blessings that happen. And then what happens? Every time you gather in fellowship with believers, you've got testimony and a blessing to share with the fellowship. And so that's what we need to do, because if we were doing that, and this was urgent in 2014 to write all 4 of those books, the trilogy and a workbook, to get all of that done in 2 months. Why? Because Father wanted the people to know that if you will walk in faith with him and stay tight with him and understand the blessing cycle, he's done it with me. It gets you out of every pit you get yourself in. Father doesn't put you in the pit. What you do gets you in the pit, and he just helps you with blessing other people to get you out of the pit. And when you get that blessing cycle going, nothing can stop this. Do you see how this goes? Okay, nothing can stop what comes. And so then you're operating with each other. Why? Even if the world currency collapses, which it probably is going to do, we would be operating with each other, and we would know people who still raise chickens, or somebody that can have an animal for us to butcher, all of these different things. We would be helping each other. Attorneys, dentists, everything, tithing of who they are. It was never about money. It was tithing who you are so that you can bless other people, because he's the one who helped you become who you are. So you're sharing him in you with everybody. It's so simple that we're not living it. And I feel so bad because I've tried so diligently to get that message out, because he knew all this was coming. He knew help the widows and the orphans. That's the only undefiled religion. Everything else is defiled. That's why the whole thing Constantine set up. We're not only a corrupted government, we're a corrupted church. And what Constantine set up is all pagan Gentile worship on the venerable day of the sun to the sun god Baal. And his names are God with a capital G, Lord with a capital L, and Master of the universe with a capital M. That's why when Christ taught us how to pray to the Father, he was departing us from that. He never participated in any of this stuff we're doing in the church that we call church, anywhere in the world. He was never a part of it, never participated in it, because why? It's not Father's kingdom. He drew us to the Father because he knew he came with all truth. And in 250 years, they did that. Pilgrims were given all truth. And in 250 years, it was a civil war, and we lost it. They put Christmas into law, Easter into law, made us a corporation. But every village, town, city, county, state, did you know it has a corporation structure above it? They're controlling absolutely everything, and we're completely unaware. We're sitting back going, I don't know when Trump's going to get this done. I don't know when Trump's going to get that done. It's not about him. We're not in a monarchy. We don't want a monarchy. They wanted President Washington to be a king. He said, I'm not going to be a king. And that's why the president keeps enjoying the fact that the No Kings is protesting, because he's glad that they don't want to bring in a king, because he's not going to be a king.
Yeah.
It's just, He's telling us. He's telling us, and I don't know if we have the soldier, the Civil War soldier information available.
I can in a moment. I did want to remind folks that the rededication on May 17th is the start of, is it 40 days of prayer
50.
in
He gave us 40
50?
days notice because that's also scriptural, and then
I
50
see.
for the Jubilee because 250 years is 5 Jubilees,
Thank you.
which is the grace of God upon this nation.
There you go. And so that will culminate on July 4th, yes?
Yeah, and the 51st day is the day after, and that's when we go into the golden age.
Interesting. So one of the things that people will see, and you can see this with your own eyes and ears, how many times in the last couple of months have you seen the president, Pete Hegseth, others praying on their, sometimes in their press conferences, sometimes as they're addressing us or their own troops and so forth? You can feel that prayer is a critical key element in all of this, and will continue as we go forward. It's a reminder that this is the underpinning of so many things we need to do, and it's just one more way of exercising what you're saying, isn't it, Sheila? To be tight with the Father, you have to focus on not what we want, but what we are guided to and what He wants for us. Okay, now you're clear. Go.
It knocked me off, so I came back on.
That's fine. All right, so please go ahead and pick up where you were.
The
Your
Civil War
comments just
soldiers?
terminated. Yes, and let me see if I can find them quickly. If not, I will bring it in later out in production.
So the Civil War soldiers, they knew exactly what happened. They knew that they were only killing believers in the Civil War, and so what happened is they built a monument identical to the Faith Monument. So they knew about the Faith Monument. It's got the 4 pillars. They're all seated the same way. It's all the same heights. It's all the same design. But they quickly put it up. They didn't lay the cornerstone the same in 1865, right after Lincoln was assassinated. They immediately put this together. You can see on the front of it where it says Gettysburg, July 1, 2, 3, 1863. That was the bloodiest battle, and that's pretty much when it ended, because they knew they didn't have independence. They knew they didn't have, so it was just July 1, 2, 3, 1863. That's it. And so they put up this monument in concrete form. So the cornerstone was laid in 1865, the same year President Lincoln was assassinated. But then in 4 years, they were able to get this whole thing up and erected. So the difference is at the top, you can see instead of faith pointing to the boss, as the president tells us, in heaven, and holding a Bible in the left hand, but pointing up to the Father with the right hand, you've got what they call, these are all Greek mythology characters. The woman at the top is the genius of liberty. There is no liberty. So that's their confirmation that nobody was going to have liberty and freedom. And to the right, you see the Civil War soldier, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, but the woman on the right was called the muse of history. She's got a writing instrument, and she's just writing down the perspective of what people think is going on today. So the monument is so completely different, doesn't compare at all. And that's not morality taking us into law, which is mercy and justice, taking us to the education of the children with the Bible and the 10 Commandments, and the grandparents teaching and mentoring the children with about the world and the Bible and the 10 Commandments. It doesn't compare at all to get us to liberty. They knew what it was going to get us to. So if we can bring up the soldier, that's a Civil War soldier, and he knows that he can't even walk away from his coat. He has to be ready in uniform to protect his own family, his own assets, and his own land. So he's got his foot on broken clay pots, because what's important to all these people from Britain is all their assets, and taking away land from people, and taking people out of their homes and land. And that's what was happening to everybody, not just the Native American Indians, but they were already gone by the time of the Civil War. So he's got to carry his musket with him. You see his left hand? That's a wanton man. Now what? And then with his foot on broken clay pots, there are
Right.
no words on these, but their faces and their demeanor and the way they're seated is telling it all. And then if we can bring up the next picture, it's a side picture. He not only has to keep his own musket in his right hand, he's got to keep cannonballs at his left foot to be ready to take on whoever comes to try and take his house, his land, his family from him, kill him and take over. Because that's what happened. Is it's not just killing 700,000 men never went home from that war in America. And that wasn't the Revolutionary War. That was citizens against citizens battling in the Civil War and fighting over that, and inspired by Britain to continue to do that. They were still putting, Britain influence in here at that time.
Yeah.
It's never ended. And that's what I didn't finish about Emperor Constantine. When he ended up self-declaring, that's the only time the King of England wasn't also over France. We weren't fighting England and France. The whole fight has been England. England was over Ireland. England was over France. England was over several nations. And that was already going on before our Revolutionary War. And then guess what the other title was of King George? His Excellency, the President of the United States. Even our presidents haven't been free of England. Do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead and look up his background. And was it coincidence in 1820 when Monroe stood up and said, we're going to go this fight, we're not going to put up with this? In 1820 is when they took out King George. January 29, I believe, of 1820.
Wow. Well, so as we said, we are approaching a very critical date. You are going to be there. And
you're going to be there, aren't you? With Tammy?
I will be there. And
Awesome.
I hope to participate in a number of different things going on in and around the mall that day, and perhaps even the day before. So we'll look forward to hopefully crossing paths while we're there. I know a lot about the folks that we know jointly, I believe, are going to be there. So it should be an amazing time.
I'll be with the America First Policy Institute group. I'm with them 16, 17, and 18. The same group I was just in Texas with. We have an annual summit, and they invited me last year, and they were gracious enough to invite me again this year. I feel so honored. And
you obviously had a big impact last year, so they wanted you back.
Well, we're all fighting to get this done and get it done right. I've said many, many times, everybody's like, I don't know how much longer this is going to take. I don't care how long it takes. It has to be done right. This has never been dealt with since the Garden of Eden. Evil has permeated everything about our lives, persevered through all of this, intimidated people through all of this. And the one who's willing to take on the fight of all of it is President Trump. In fact, I sent a letter today. I don't have it in front of me, but in essence, I said, for the past 35 years, I've done everything to prepare the people, having no idea it was going to take that long to prepare before you agreed to come. Of course, he's now 7-8 years into it. So that brings me in my 20s. Let's just hang with that for a moment. Sheila's in her 20s. You can repeat that to as many people as you want to. And so anyway, he to prepare for such a man to come and be ready for this and to take this on, because everybody said King Cyrus. We covered this last time. Nobody's saying King Cyrus is doing his job now, are they? And that's exactly what he's doing, because he's doing everything he can to do what? And I put it in all capital letters. Stop killing believers in the Lord.
Yep.
Jehovah, Yahweh, because Lord has to be in all caps. God should be in all caps. And guys, he is the Father over us. And I'm not just calling him Father like he's my earthly father. He's the one I go to at all times, because you can only get to him through salvation, is what Christ was referring to. Choose. You have to choose. He's not going to force you. He's not going to. Satan requires that. Satan requires, in fact, the Illuminati requires signature. Look in the reference section of the last 3 books, book 4 and 5 in the book series, and in the new book, An Eternal Plan. I left the Illuminati document in there because you can see it in pure In pure form, it's a simple form that they get them to sign, and they feel they're in that forever. You can get out at any moment to become his people. If my people called by my name will humble themselves. And if we operate with the world, we're not separate and set apart from the world to be with him. But the man on the cross, that was one of the thieves that was on the cross. And remember, he was only on the cross because they hate truth. So they wanted to kill truth because that's what he brought. And they didn't want that. And that's why they've been killing truth speakers ever since. Targeting truth speakers, putting them in prison. Everything that they've done is to keep moving the Native Americans to the other side of the Mississippi by President Jackson. Everything they've done. They don't want the infiltrators. They want people who will align with them. They don't want the infiltrators to know the truth, so they have to do a replacement. Get all of us somewhere else or get us out of here, get us off the planet, so that the people they bring in will stand with them.
Yeah.
So
It's as simple for those who wish to get tight with the Father to simply ask, as you've reminded folks again and again and again. And should you find yourself in the situation of saying, what are you doing here? Remember those last words of the video you began with. The man on the middle cross said, I could come.
mm-hmm.
Amazing. Thank you for being with us.
Well, blessings upon you, and guys, everybody listening. And just thank you so much for everything you've done to help me, and I'm so excited about all the autograph books. We're praying for everybody that you get through the 500 pages. I put a lot of pictures in there, so I hope that helps. But we have to know the truth in order to know how to take the steps and to get our families through this to the third and fourth generation. That has never happened, even with Noah, guys. Nimrod was his. Yeah. Great grandson, so that's only 2 generations after. So there you go, guys. He didn't make it the 3rd and 4th generation, and he was the only righteous one. So I don't care how many, but I want as many souls as possible getting through this.
That's right. Thanks again. I'm sure we will speak soon, and hopefully we'll cross paths in Washington in about 10 days, and perhaps we'll get a chance to chat there, bring some words to the people. Thank you, Sheila.
Bless you.